Benito Mussolini, the fascist dictator of Italy, a close ally of Adolf Hitler, described fascism as the merger of state and corporate power. That is exactly what we're seeing with BlackRock. It's fascist, technocratic control of the economy, and they want to bankrupt any sector, any industry, any company that won't play along and reward those who do. It's a very, very dangerous situation. And again, the worst part is they're doing it with our money.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and this is the Miles Franklin Weekly Special for July 24th through July 31st, 2023, while supplies last. And on this one, supplies may not last long, because this week we feature 2023 American Silver Eagles at just $8.99 over spot, our lowest price on Silver Eagles in more than a year. Since its first release almost 40 years ago, the Silver Eagle has been, without exception, the world's most popular bullion coin, which provides unparalleled recognizability and liquidity. It's 3/9 fine, comes 22 a tube, 500 to a box, and is available at just $8.99 over spot while supplies last. Finally, the Silver Eagle is IRA eligible. And if you'd like to learn more about a precious metals IRA, call us, and we'll be happy to help you in that process. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're delighted to have this returning guest. Alex Newman is the senior editor at The New American. He's an Epoch Times contributor. He's has his own website, Liberty Sentinel, and he's a journalist on all topics supporting families, constitutional rights, and resisting government overreach. He's recently come up with an article that's a fascinating one that we want to lead off with, and that's called BlackRock, Masters of the Universe. Alex, thanks for coming back on Liberty and Finance.
Great to be here. Thanks so much for having me, Dunning. Appreciate it.
We've heard a lot about BlackRock getting its fingers in the residential real estate for one thing. In some cities or states, maybe you'll know the statistics better than I have, but they say in some markets they own up to 25% of the homes in certain areas, making it very difficult for people to buy a home. So most people get pushed into the rental market, and then those rents keep getting raised, and so they become unaffordable. But there's more to it than that. Can you give us why people need to be aware of what's going on with BlackRock?
Yeah, and that is a big component of it, right? People will remember, of course, the World Economic Forum put out a video even before they announced the Great Reset, telling us right at the start that by 2030 you would own nothing, you'll be happy, and then the very next slide they tell you, yeah, you're going to just have to rent everything. And that fits perfectly with what you just described in the real estate market. I do believe BlackRock is a critical component of this agenda. We actually put them on the cover here. The journalist Michael Taibbi once referred to Goldman Sachs as the great vampire squid wrapped around the face of humanity, relentlessly shoving its blood funnel into anything that smells like money. And there's some great imagery there, but really when you look at who owns Goldman Sachs, the biggest stakeholder is actually BlackRock. So BlackRock is the leader of the cephalopods, if you will, and they are working now very deliberately, very strategically to fundamentally reshape the economy. And when you look at the nexus with the World Economic Forum, we don't have to speculate. The guy who runs BlackRock, Larry Fink, the CEO, is also on the board of trustees for the World Economic Forum, which is a strategic partner of the United Nations in bringing about Agenda 2030, which is the guiding vision or the master plan for humanity, as the leaders of the United Nations put it. So all this is working together. They're working to starve critical industries in the United States in particular of much needed credit and capital and investment money. They're using our money. They're weaponizing our retirements. They're weaponizing our state and local government pension plans to wokeify our businesses, right? They're ousting directors from companies that won't go along with the agenda. And so people look at like Bud Light as an obvious recent example, or Target, or Disney World, right? Disney World's lost like, what, $1 billion on their last 10 garbage movies. And people are looking at this like, this makes no sense. Why are these companies destroying themselves? Well, the reason they're doing it is because they're trying to satisfy Larry Fink. He puts out this yearly letter to CEOs, and he basically tells all these CEOs and directors what they need to be doing, and they get the message, right? If you don't go along with this, you're going to be removed. You're going to lose your fancy salary. You're going to lose your nice corner office in New York. And so they're totally transforming the economic landscape, and this affects every single one of us, Dunnigan, not just homeowners who are going to be forced into renting. This affects affects employees of these mega corporations. This affects consumers. This affects shareholders, right? They're the ones pushing the ESG. So it's hard to overstate the significance of BlackRock, this diabolical corporation, when it comes to the radical transformations that we're witnessing all across the economy and through all sectors of life.
Let's zoom in on one of the statements that you made in there near the beginning. You said they're weaponizing our own money against us. They're weaponizing our own retirement savings plans and pension plans against us. Can you walk us through that in slow motion? Because I think most people don't have any idea that's what's going on with our own money.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, Dunnigan. And this is important for people to understand, right? BlackRock has about $10 trillion under management. That is an unfathomable amount of money. We're talking, that's bigger than the GDP of every country in the world except the United States and communist China. So we're talking about so much money, it defies understanding. I mean, you just can't even comprehend the magnitude of that money. But that money is not BlackRock's. That money belongs to you and me. So many of the state governments in this union have their retirement funds, which are huge, right? I mean, you look at California's state retirement system, you look at Florida's retirement system, we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars. And this is public money, right? This is money that has been promised to state government employees, local government employees. In many cases, this is actually public money, like where does the state park its money? Well, whatever they have surplus, a lot of it they're parking in companies like BlackRock. Then you have regular investors. You might have a 401k, you might have an IRA. Where your money is going to be managed by BlackRock. And a lot of people don't even realize this, right? Like if you've bought into an ETF, the iShares ETFs, these are all BlackRock ETFs. So BlackRock, it doesn't actually own these stocks. They don't actually own these companies, but they're using your money as if they did, and they're voting your shares. So when the shareholder meeting comes up, say BlackRock owns 10% of the company, where, not BlackRock technically, we own 10% of the company, but BlackRock is managing that money for us. Well, BlackRock, most shareholders are not actively participating in these shareholder meetings. So BlackRock comes along and says, well, we own 10% of the company, and we want you to promote transgenderism in your advertising. We want you to promote COVID injections. We want you to promote globalism. We want you to stop doing business with fossil fuel companies or with conservatives. And what do the corporations say? What do the directors of these corporations say? Well, yes, master, right? And so the BlackRock doesn't even have to have this money. And then, Dunnigan, it gets even crazier. This is going to sound absurd, but it's true. BlackRock has this AI-powered scheme. They call it Aladdin, and they pass it off as just a risk management tool. It's much more than that. And even their competitors are using this. So State Street and Vanguard, the other two asset managers, the other two investment behemoths, they're also using Aladdin, BlackRock's proprietary AI-powered risk management system, to make their investments. And so they have now tens of trillions. We don't even know how much anymore. After they passed the 20 trillion mark with Aladdin, they stopped telling us how much money was there. Tens of trillions of dollars are being allocated in the markets based on who knows what algorithms, who knows what formulas that these totalitarians at BlackRock are coming up with. But we know enough about BlackRock. We know enough about their modus operandi, their CEO, their vision for the future to know that whatever's going on there, it's bad news. And so, folks, if you have money, if your state has money parked with BlackRock, now would be a really good time to consider moving it.
This is a insidious thing that's happening. I mean, people who have been we believe we live in the land of the free and the brave. We live in the greatest democracy that's ever been on the planet of the earth. That sort of thing is what people believe that they were taught about the America that we were born into. But when we find that our taxes, which are in many cases unconstitutional, are being converted into military might or other types of coercion against foreign countries, or in this case against corporations, it has been baffling to many people. What can they do about it? And it even, as you just pointed out, it seems mysterious to most people why anywhere from individual companies seem to be self-destructing, basically committing suicide by doing really bad business decisions serially, and countries as well, making their borders absolutely open and permeable, and making it easier and easier for people who are not citizens to vote, and so on. It's been baffling to ordinary people, because ordinary people start with the assumption that the decision makers, the power people in power of their country or of companies should be making the best decisions on behalf of the people, or best decisions on behalf of the shareholders or the customers or whatever. And when it keeps being proven that that is the opposite of what's happening, we're left scratching our heads. But as you point out, it sounds like there's this hidden and misunderstood money connection where our own money is being used against us. And are there other examples besides BlackRock, State Street, and the other that you mentioned where you see this happening?
Yeah, well, continuing with BlackRock, there are many other ways where they're weaponizing our own money and even our own government against us, right? People don't realize the way that BlackRock got so huge and so powerful was actually through its relationship with the government, right? One of the best things that ever happened to BlackRock was the 2007-2008 financial meltdown. Larry Fink, quite ironically, was involved in creating the crisis, right? He was one of the guys who first innovated this idea of, mortgage-backed securities. I mean, he basically set the stage for this fiasco. When the fiasco started and the meltdown began, the government called on BlackRock. The Federal Reserve called on BlackRock to manage the bailout program. So they're basically giving them our taxpayer money. They're creating funny money out of thin air. BlackRock was literally managing Federal Reserve bailout programs for the Federal Reserve. So talk about a conflict of interest. They're also hiring politicians faster than we can produce them. They're hiring bureaucrats. At this point, it's very hard to tell where the Biden administration ends and BlackRock begins. Tons of top-level people are moving from Obama, Clinton campaigns and administrations into BlackRock. Tons of senior BlackRock people are moving over to the Biden administration. There are so many. I've got a big list of them in the article. Same thing with central bankers. So they're hiring central bankers right and left, including top-level central bankers. And actually, the same thing happened during the COVID crisis. BlackRock was called in, again, to help the government, to help the central bank manage these bailout programs. And so you have a lot of conservatives that say, go woke, go broke. And it's got a nice ring to it, right? The companies that go woke and start pushing this stuff on their customers go broke. The reality is it's actually the opposite. One of my former colleagues at the New American pointed out that it really is the exact reverse. The companies were going broke, and then BlackRock was coming in and saying, well, we're running the bailout program, so you either go woke or you're going to go broke. We're not going to give you any bailout money. So in every conceivable way, they're taking our money, they're taking our government, they're weaponizing it against us, they're bankrupting whole sectors of the American economy, they're boosting the communist Chinese economy, right? They're funneling American capital, American investment into communist Chinese companies, even as they defund and blackmail some of the very same companies and industries here in the United States. So this is just unbelievably dangerous. And of course, BlackRock is the tip of the iceberg, right? If you look at the companies that BlackRock has the biggest stake in, most of the Fortune 500, BlackRock is one of the top stakeholders. Any big company you can think of, you'll find BlackRock there. In many cases, even competitors, right? They'll own a big stake in Coke. They'll own a big stake in Pepsi. And so that's how so much of this is happening, Dunnigan. And it's happening behind the scenes. And the mechanism they use, recently Larry Fink kind of distanced himself from ESG. But people look at this like, why would these companies be doing this? Why would they be doing something that they know is going to harm their shareholders, alienate their customers, hurt their employees? Why would they do it? Well, it's because BlackRock is promoting this idea of ESG investing. So it's not about, and Klaus Schwab has articulated this very clearly. Companies need to stop just serving shareholders. They must serve stakeholders. And among these are the governments. There's a word for word Klaus Schwab quotation. And that's what they want to do. So now when BlackRock and Larry Fink is looking at, well, what company do we invest in? They're not just looking at risk and return. They're looking at, well, are they buying enough carbon credits from Al Gore so he can uproot African villages and plant trees and extort taxpayers and consumers for carbon credit money? Are they featuring enough transgenders and homosexuals in their commercials? Are they, promoting enough diversity, equity, inclusion in their hiring practices? And so instead of making decisions based on what's best for the shareholders, what's going to serve their consumers, their customers best, they're making decisions based on what they think Larry Fink and BlackRock want them to do. And it's very, very dangerous. In fact, we've seen this economic model before. In fact, Benito Mussolini, the fascist dictator of Italy, a close ally of Adolf Hitler, described fascism as the merger of state and corporate power. That is exactly what we're seeing with BlackRock. It's fascist, technocratic control of the economy, and they want to bankrupt any sector, any industry, any company that won't play along and reward those who do. It's a very, very dangerous situation. And again, the worst part is they're doing it with our money.
So I hope that your article turns from describing the problem to proposing ways that people can make a difference and make a choice that would counter this threat. Can you expand on that?
Well, you know me, Dunnigan, and of course it does. That's the grand finale there. We don't just have to sit by and passively accept this abuse of America, of our companies, of our money. There are many things that we can do, and there are many things that are being done, right? I've actually spoken with multiple state attorneys general over the last year who are investigating BlackRock. This, to me, is very, very encouraging. They sent a very powerful letter to Larry Fink last year, warning him that, hey, man, it looks like there are some serious legal violations here. We're going to be looking at antitrust. We're going to be looking at your violation of your fiduciary responsibilities. You know, these companies have an obligation to their shareholders or to the people whose money they're managing to earn profit, right? That's their job, is to earn a return and to do so in a sensible way while you're managing risk. And what's happening here, by their own admission, is that's not going on. They're rewarding climate nonsense and wokeness and things like this. So multiple state AGs, I believe it's 20 at last count, are probing these issues, and I think that's very encouraging. I've also spoken with state treasurers, right? I interviewed, I think 2 years ago now, the state treasurer of West Virginia, who had formed a coalition of, I think they're up to 17 state treasurers now, who are defunding BlackRock. Actually, the state treasurer of West Virginia, Riley Moore, people can find that interview that I did with him at the New American. He says, look, these people are bankrupting our key industries that make life possible in our state, right? They want to bankrupt the coal industry. They want to bankrupt hydrocarbon fuels. We need those, right? Not only do they power our homes and turn our lights on, they provide the jobs that we need. They keep our homes warm in the winter so we don't freeze to death. So this is totally unacceptable. They've put a lot of these banks on the blacklist. They've divested from them, so they've pulled my home state of Florida. Very thankful to our state CFO, Mr. Petronis, for pulling Florida's money out of BlackRock. Many, many states are doing this. We need many, many more to do it. If you live in a state that still has your state or your local government pension funds parked with BlackRock, call them up, ask for a meeting, tell them this needs to stop now. Another thing we can do as individual investors is pull our money. You know, I had some money, I'm ashamed to admit, invested in BlackRock ETFs. I didn't realize iShares was part of BlackRock until I started digging into this. They actually bought it off another bank for very little. I think it was Barclays. And so now anytime you buy ETFs managed by iShares, you're helping BlackRock weaponize these companies against you and against your country. So pull your money out. There are great other companies that will manage your money in a manner consistent with your values or just in a manner that's concerned with profit. And let me give you an example of how serious this is, Dunnigan. You know, if you look just last year is a good example. The stock market got crushed, right? Something down like almost 20%. The companies that did really, really well are the companies that you're not supposed to invest in if you're obsessed with ESG. The energy companies, right? The oil companies, they were up like, 50, 60% last year. So if you were one of the people whose money was invested in one of these idiotic ESG funds run by, BlackRock or whoever that was excluding energy companies, you got taken to the cleaner. Why? Right? And that's a violation of the fiduciary responsibilities of these money managers to say, well, we don't really care that much about profit. We just want to make sure that they're buying enough carbon credit. It's despicable. And so I'd say the first thing you can do is educate yourself. Go read this article. It's for free on the internet. You don't have to be a subscriber. Just go to thenewamerican.com. You can read it there. Find out what's going on here. Share it with other people. Share this interview out with other people. Send it to your state representative. Send it to your state senator. Send it to your state treasurer or CFO or whatever he's called. Call up your own money manager, right? Who's managing your money for you? If you're managing it yourself, go look through your portfolio. Do you have any money invested in BlackRock vehicles? If you do, pull it. Find another place to put it into. There's lots of ways you can invest without using BlackRock vehicles. So those are some very, very basic things that people can do. Again, there are funds, there are ETFs that are managed by people who are not going along with the woke stuff. I won't name any. I'm invested in some of them. They're actually after profit, which is, of course, what they should be doing. So a lot of things we can do there, Dunnigan.
Yeah, I may imagine that companies that are actually trying to stay in business, and countries that are trying to protect their citizens, and families that are trying to protect their children, and so on. On that front, can we touch before we wrap on what families are doing? That's another thing we reach out to you for regarding homeschooling or about unplugging from. You mentioned some of the spillover of this stuff that is inappropriate, material that's inappropriate for children and for families that's been pushed by Disney and others. Any progress being made that we need to be aware of on that front?
Yeah, there's quite a lot happening that I think is very encouraging. And one thing that's obvious is consumers are just saying no, right? I mentioned Disney. They've lost almost $1 billion on their last 10 movies. Why? Because consumers are not interested in taking their kids to see woke propaganda. People don't take their kids to go watch a Disney movie so that they can be, bombarded with propaganda about you might have been born in the wrong body, right? That's not why parents and families are going to watch Disney movies. And so they're going to learn the hard way, whether they like it or not, that this is not what consumers want. And if you look at the movies that are doing really well, what you'll see is consistently these are pro-family, these are family-friendly, these are wholesome entertainment, not a bunch of woke messaging, not a bunch of LGBT stuff in your face. These are just family-friendly movies. Sound of Freedom is a good example, smashing it at the box office. And, it's a wholesome message about protecting the innocence of children and fighting evildoers. This is what consumers want. So I'm really encouraged by that. The exodus out of the government school system is continuing to accelerate as the schools get more and more out of control. More and more families are deciding to leave. Incredibly encouraging. The homeschool movement is rapidly growing. So there's a lot to be encouraged by on this front. And we're seeing this in the broader economy, too. I mean, we all know what happened to Bud Light. They got crushed. We all saw what happened to Target. They lost, $15 billion of market capitalization, just wiped right off the books. So the consumer is making his voice heard. We need much more of that. And it begins with families don't want this stuff shoved down the throats of their children. And, if BlackRock and these other companies insist on continuing to do it, they're going to pay the price. And what we need to do is make sure they don't have access to public money to continue perpetuating this madness. It'll put a stop to it real quick.
People need to reach out to you to keep connected with you because you're writing constantly on these important topics. Where should they get connected?
Well, I appreciate that very much, John. Again, thank you. So my personal website is libertysentinel.org. Sentinel is SENTINEL. Just started a new weekly newsletter there so people can sign up. Just put your email in. We won't spam you. We won't sell it. Just round up of the key things happening for the week. Also, like you mentioned, I'm senior editor at the New American. If people want to subscribe, they'll get 2 issues of the New American in their mailbox every month. Also, you can subscribe to the daily headlines for free. Doing a lot of other stuff, too. I got my daily show. You can find that at Lindell TV 2 every day from 4:30 to 5. A weekly show I do called Liberty Hour. That is on the AMP network. And, of course, almost everything that I'm doing, at least a good roundup of it, I'm putting out through the weekly newsletter so people can follow that there. And of course, I'm a regular guest here, so I appreciate it very much. Dunnigan, thank you for having me, and thanks for all you do.
We reach out to you because you are a tireless and well-spoken and fearless crusader for the good of families and good of our country. We're proud of that, and we're proud of the work that you do and want to support that and get that word out. So thank you very much, Alex Newman, for joining us here on Liberty and Finance.
Miles Franklin Precious Metals is one of America's oldest and most trusted bullion dealers. Miles Franklin is A+ rated and accredited by the Better Business Bureau, licensed and bonded, and has 0 complaints ever registered. Here at Liberty and Finance, we are licensed brokers with Miles Franklin. To order, simply call us, discuss your needs, and we can let you know our live inventory, prices, and availability, and lock in your order over the phone. Once your order is locked, the price is held for you regardless of market fluctuations, and the metals are reserved for you awaiting your settled payment. Within 1 business day of ordering, you will receive an email invoice detailing the order and payment instructions. Miles Franklin accepts payments by bank wire, ACH or electronic check, money order, check mailed priority mail, and cryptocurrency. The fastest forms of payment are bank wire and cryptocurrency. Upon settled payment, metals will ship out within 3 to 5 business days. You will receive tracking information via email. Domestic shipping charges are $15 for any order under 500 ounces of silver or 10 ounces of gold. For orders larger than that, domestic shipping is free. The package will be boxed, fully insured, and labeled discreetly, with no indication of the contents inside. For your privacy, the name Miles Franklin will not even be on the package. To talk to myself, Kaiser, my brother Elijah, or my father Dunnigan, call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237.